So there are JRPGs out there that get forgotten because, they're just bad. But then there's also JRPGs out there that get forgotten because they were just never really allowed to exist in the first place. And Xenosaga Pied Piper is one of those games that was just never really allowed to exist. And I've wondered about this game for quite a bit of time, not because I played it, but because I couldn't play it. It was real, it mattered, it was canonical to the story, yet it was locked, number 1, to Japan, number 2, on Japanese flip phones. Yeah, it's like a sick joke aimed at Xenosaga fans. It's kind of crazy. For over 20 years, we heard about the game, but we didn't really know anything else about it. Maybe there was a translated script somewhere, or some grainy footage out there, or a lot of trust me bro, this explains everything. But now, suddenly out of nowhere, not only is it preserved, but it's also translated and playable in English with real quality of life improvements. And I am here to tell you how to play it. And I definitely do think that's worth a sub as you come and you join our party and you level on up with me. Thank you so much for your sub, your like, and your hype. It helps me out a ton. And now let's talk about this long lost Xenosaga game because, how cool is this? Okay, so we all know what Xenogears is, we know what Xenoblade is, and we know what Xenosaga is, but what in the world is Xenosaga Pied Piper? Let me get into that right now because this is a canonical side story that takes place about 100 or so years before the first episode of Xenosaga. This isn't some goofy mobile spin-off or gacha game that doesn't really matter. It is a real chapter of the story focused on Jan Sauer, aka Ziggurat 8, aka Ziggy. Just as a real human being before he became a cyborg, and before all the, emotional damage too. So you're playing as Ziggy when he was still human, and he's working as an agent, hunting down a serial killer known as the Voyager. And this story, it's why Ziggy gets all traumatic, why he's so guilty, and why he has a lot of that, philosophical baggage, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's really freaking cool. And the wild part about all this was that the whole story was originally told on a mobile RPG in 2004, not a console release, not the WonderSwan Color or the Game Boy Advance. This was told on a shitty frickin' flip phone. I mean, I was alive in 2004. I was in my 20s. I had a flip phone, and they were terrible. They were in black and white. Mine couldn't even connect to the internet. It could only take 9 pictures on it, and I couldn't imagine ever playing a video game on it because it was just god awful terrible. I actually remember being so pissed off about it that I took it and I threw it down a flight of stairs, smashed it into smithereens. I hated that stupid mobile phone so much. And then I went out and I got myself an iPhone. So yeah, that was really cool. So yeah, we didn't really get games back then on telephones, at least here in America, but they did over in Japan because they were just better. But once those services shut down, it basically vanished because, that really kind of annoys me. We've all seen mobile games come and go and crash and burn and get shut down. It's only very recently that we're seeing some mobile games get preserved. Like Octopath Traveler 0 and Another Eden Begins. But especially back in 2004, no one gave a shit about mobile games. They weren't preserved. Nobody really thought about it back then, even though I do feel like the games back then were better. Final Fantasy Dimensions 1 is hell of a lot better than Final Fantasy Dimensions 2, because they were actually real games back then. They weren't gacha games, so yeah. Anyway, when these phones died and the network shut down, the games got shut down with them. It never got archived, it never got re-released, it wasn't really even acknowledged for years. So for the longest time, for 20 years, if you were a Xenosaga fan, this was the missing piece. This was something that people talked about, but they couldn't really show you. This was the story that you're supposed to care about or know, but you could never really experience yourself. And that's especially cruel for a series like this, that prides itself on its story and its characters. But then, here we are. And 2025 rolls around. Yeah, I'm a little bit late on the game on this, but this is so freaking cool I had to make a video anyway. And an original copy of Pied Piper resurfaced through preservation efforts. And at that point, it stopped being lost media, and it started becoming okay, we can actually, play this game. But that wasn't enough. It wasn't enough just to get a proper dump or a clean translation, or finally letting people see what the game actually was. They didn't just translate it, and call it a day. They actually went the extra mile and they recreated it as a full, playable RPG experience that you can download and play right now. And this isn't just like technically playable. It's a comfortable playable. It's thoughtful. It's respectful of your time. It is in English. It supports controllers. You can play it on your browser on your computer, or you can download it through a zip file and play it outright. You don't need emulators. You don't need BlueStacks. You don't need dead phone firmware. You don't need a history lesson in Japanese mobile infrastructure. You could just launch it and play it. I mean, again, you could just literally play it on your browser. It's really just that easy. And it has controller support. And that alone puts it above many mobile releases that even come out today. And you know what? They put some quality of life improvements in there too. Like there's no random battles. Enemies are visible on the field, so you can choose your fights. The combat uses turn order, boosts, and special abilities that feel way closer to like Xenosaga 3 than anything else you would expect on a mobile game. There are progression systems, skills, and a ton of other things that, apparently weren't in the original version, just to kind of like bring it up to par for what we expect as a Xenosaga game. It's almost like they took the phone game and then they remade it as if it was going to come out on maybe like, the Game Boy Advance or something else like that, instead of on a mobile phone. So really, I am here to kind of like just like bring this to your attention, to bring this game to light so that more people are aware of it, because it's just freaking cool. And if this is successful, hopefully more fans will go back to other defunct mobile games and like preserve them and bring them back to life. Like Opera Omnia. That would be really freaking cool. That was a good mobile game. Like, come on, take the good mobile games and do this to them. How cool would that be? And also, like, I've just got to say, in like a whole like Xenosaga way, it almost comes like full circle. Because we all know Xenosaga, like it's kind of crazy, and it's obsessed with like loss and memory and identity and stories that like refuse to disappear. So there's something almost perfect about this, like a little like side story that was lost for decades, only to be brought back to life by fans who cared enough to like rebuild it properly. This doesn't just add lore, it gives emotional context. It really helps explain Ziggy's past. You're not just reading about it in a translated script, you're playing it, you're seeing a piece of it. So if you've ever loved the Xenosaga games like I have, this is worth your time. Not because it's rare, but I mean it is obscure, but because it does finally let you experience a missing chapter the way that it should have been experienced all along. It's not just a rumor, it's real, it's playable, and if you want to play it, I have a link to it down in the pinned comment. And again, if you did enjoy this, please be sure to level on up and join my party by subscribing, and let me know how you feel about this, and just the Xenosaga series in general. And as always, have a good day.